Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Schmoofcast.
Yay!
We're back.
We're here!
Hope you enjoyed your ride. Would have enjoyed this interview a lot more if I'd gotten my cup of coffee.
Wow.
The mummy turned 17 years old today.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure. Anyway, you're joined here with Bret.
And Kristen.
And together we are the Schmoofs. We have over 20 years combined in the hospitality industry here in the local Orlando theme parks. We're big fans of the theme parks, and we're here to share that fandom and knowledge with you.
Yay!
Today's episode is going to be wrapping up our 3-part discussion on good attractions and queues and exits.
Queues and exits, and how does that impact the experience, and what does that mean when it comes to an attraction, and does it make a difference? And I think we're going to talk today, so if you haven't had a chance to listen to the last 2 episodes, we would highly recommend it because we do talk specifically about entrances and then about exits on how that can impact an attraction and how it makes you feel different or anything like that. So this is kind of our culmination. We're going to talk about some queues and exits that we feel are
the overall attraction experience.
Yes, that complement the overall attraction experience.
Because we got some comments from quite a few people actually that said that we totally missed the Indiana Jones adventure at Disneyland.
Shout out to my dad.
And it's like we didn't miss it. We held the discussion on it because we feel that it is the crown jewel of what an attraction can be.
I think that, yes, so jumping right into it, I think the biggest thing when we talk about attraction experiences and how a queue looks or how a queue and an exit can make a difference, Indy is something that I think the queue is very interesting. And a lot of that has to do with the way that the queue itself is kind of processed and situated. And this is even a prior to COVID thing of there's an outdoor section of queue, which is generally pretty packed. They're going to hold a lot of people there. And then there is a kind of a really, really long extended indoor queue, but they only push enough people through that essentially so it doesn't fill up all of the indoor queue and you walk quite extensively before you hit other people. So with that, you're outside. It has crates and different things as they have expeditions going to this temple.
It's like all the outposts and such are happening outside of the temple.
Yeah, so you see things from different explorers or from tourists that have come to this location out in the middle of nowhere, essentially, for this temple to have the opportunity for riches or anything and everything from...
riches and youth and visions of the future.
All of the good things that the temple can bring. So you see a lot of that on the outside in that queue. You're feeling a lot of the touristy stuff. You're feeling a lot more of the base campness, if you will. I don't know the right way to say that. And you do spend a lot of time out there, so you can really take a look at a lot of those items if you're in an extended queue with Indy, because you will be in that area.
It sets up the tone for when you're moving towards the temple, because on the outside of the temple, there's actually a bunch of snake statues, like around the queue area. And it's like, oh, that's weird. This temple's weird, and the name of the attraction is Temple of the Forbidden Eye, but...
and the eyes are, like, covered up and everything.
Yeah, but why are there snakes outside if it's all about the eye? So
who knows? But then as you kind of traverse into the temple, you have to go down this like wooden bridge, which is really interesting because it elevates you. It really forces a change in perspective as you're going into the temple. And it is really spaced out when you go in through it. So as you enter, you're going to be passing different carvings, different art, like wall art or things that are going on or carvings that are in this temple that kind of give you the feeling that it's not necessarily the place you want to be.
It's a lot of warnings. And
it's a lot of warnings.
You need you need to decode what it all reads. It's in a cipher, but if you're able to decode it, it's all warnings of you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, look out. Don't do that. And as you kind of continue to go in, so then you go through kind of the broken down temple section, and then you get to where the bats are, which I hate because they make a lot of noise.
Well, the craziest thing about all these parts of the queue too is that it's all illuminated by what look like work lights just strung up to a generator. So they flicker, and sometimes they go out for like a solid second and make the entire queue pitch black. Like It feels like you're on a work site of just these lights running on a janky generator.
Mm-hmm. And then you get to this section. So it doesn't really work anymore, or I don't know. It might work. I will 100% say that I am traumatized from, as a child, by the Indy queue. When you get past where the bats are, there is a section that has...
It's a dropping spiked ceiling.
It's a dropping spiked ceiling. And it has a indicator, like, or a trigger.
It's a bamboo pole, and it says don't touch the pole because it's holding up the ceiling.
Yeah, and then, like, you can jerk that pole, and that would force all of these spikes to come down. It's very loud. I don't know if it's been working in a while.
I think the sound effect is there, but it doesn't physically move.
Yeah, it used to, you used to be able to jerk that pole hardcore, and it would just make the entire room go, ah! But, so that's just, again, that steps you into this whole, you're feeling very cautious, you're like, what is going on?
It feels like, walking into The Last Crusade with Indiana Jones. It's like, oh, there's traps here, oh, be careful.
Yep, and then you have to, look at there's portions where the floor itself has the eyes of Mara on it, and you have to not step on certain ones, and it shows.
You can see where ones have already fallen alongside.
Yeah, where someone had stepped on it and it released a boulder from overhead and crushed people. It's intense. But once you get past that, you actually get to the work area. You get to one of the main hubs of the excavation, which is, again, really fun. They have a lot of interactive elements in this queue for how old it is.
Yeah, it was way before Disney proactively designed queues with interactive elements. So this is all...
Long before.
This is all just a happy medium with a lot of stuff. If you've been to Hollywood Studios, over near the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, there's a rope that says don't pull. There's just a guy down there on the bottom of the rope doing some excavating. That same thing exists in the Indiana Jones Adventure queue at Disneyland. Mm-hmm. You move forward, you get an entire pre-show safety spiel that's based on an old projector, old film projectors, and it kind of gives you the history of what's going on in the Forbidden Eye and Temple of the Forbidden Eye, and why you're there, because you're there to see if you can maybe help find Indy. Indiana Jones has been lost for I think 3 weeks. They said.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
All I know is that it's really fun that they pull from the time frame with it. It is shot very reminiscent of, if you've heard this radio sound, that 1930s radio sound at Jungle Cruise, that kind of a little bit too peppy sports announcer voice from the 30s. That's what it's like. It's like a tourist setup of that, which I think is really funny. And
it's so well done.
It's such it's a fun nod to, you get a lot of comedy in it. It's always hilarious. But then you also, they just very casually point out in this that if you meet the eyes of the idol, that you'll just die and become a skeleton in the middle of the car. There's still portions of it where you're kind of okay, still, you're making this try to sound fun, but this could be a little crazy.
Super dangerous. And then you get to the ride, and the ride is, I think, one of the coolest rides that Disney's ever built. Period. Dot. It is spectacular. It's dinosaur. It's the same ride vehicle. It's the same almost ride layout to a point. I think Indiana Jones is definitely a bit bigger. But instead of having just blank walls or projections, these are all physical show scenes.
They're big physical sets.
When you enter the main area of the temple, you're seeing other vehicles around you that are farther along and farther behind you in the same area. And it's just, I know I've said it before with Disneyland, but a lot of their attractions flow together. They're not trying to hide anything. In Splash Mountain, you can see other logs around you in different show scenes. The show scenes, you can see through portions of them. Pirates of the Caribbean, it's the same way. You can see through a bunch of the cave portions to see cars and vehicles ahead of you. Roger Rabbit is the same way. You can see ahead of you in some scenes. It doesn't try to hide that you're alone on a ride. And I don't think another Walt Disney World attraction does that besides the Omnimovers.
Right, but the Omnimovers do it out of necessity. They don't do it out of operation.
Exactly. So it's a cool thing that it's hey, you're not alone in this chaos that's happening. And it just adds to how gigantic these show scenes are.
But then, so you experience the attraction, you kind of get this, you get the emotional high from it, or you get, the adrenaline high. Then you get through the exit. And the hilarious thing is, the exit is pretty much directly alongside of the queue. Mm-hmm. So you can, similar to how being on the ride, you can look over and see people experiencing it in a different section. When you get off, you experience that same portion. So you see the queue that you went through. You see the excavation site. You go back through the bats and all of that. But you experience that differently because of the ride that you just went on. You have a different perspective of that feeling from the queue. It's more a feeling of relief as you're kind of leaving the excitement and things like that.
It's like, oh, I've already done this. Oh, yeah, you guys are in for a treat. I've already done this.
Yeah, but it doesn't change that you still experience those things and you experience them differently. I think that's so cool that it's the same. It's the same if you go, as you're coming in and you're going out, but your perspective, because of the ride that you went on, is different. So you experience that differently. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason as you exit, like as you are actively leaving, instead of being in the middle of all of that hubbub for the tourists and the crates and all of those things, you're actually walking alongside the river. You kind of take a wide berth of it.
You can see jungle cruise right next to you.
And yeah, you're more likely to see jungle cruise going by, like these river expeditions where you get put back out into the world. And it feels different. I don't know.
It is a very convincing, you were far away from reality type deal. Because of the restrictions for building the attraction, had to put it outside the berm of Disneyland. Your walk out to get to the show building for the ride, it's a long walk and it's a long walk back. But it adds to the overall just Adventureland feel of things. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like you're right in the middle of Adventureland. It feels like you even traveled far away from the park. Which you did. Mm-hmm. And then it ends the end of the queue, or the end of the exits, I should say. Or what would you say, the exit queue in our last episode?
Exit queue.
The exit queue, yeah. You see, there's a sign that says, "Real riches await those who choose wisely." Is that right?
I don't know.
It's a box above the exitway, and it just kind of seals it home. It's like, you went to this temple looking for riches or something, but you survived, and it's like, okay, cool. Life is more valuable than money. But Indiana Jones, boom. It's I haven't been on the one over in Tokyo, but I assume it's pretty much just as awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know nothing of international parks, okay?
All right, so let's hit some of the other attractions. I know we've talked before in the other episodes about the Men in Black alien attack at Universal. But I still think that this is one of the best themed attractions that Universal's ever done. And I know Harry Potter fans, I'm sorry for saying this. This is the best.
I think there's a difference between saying best theme attraction and talking about a queue experience.
This is the overall best experience in that park.
In that park, yes.
In studios.
In studios.
Yeah.
I will agree with that.
Since last time, we've been on Velocicoaster. And Velocicoaster is now the end-all, be-all attraction.
No, it's not.
It's so good. It's
queue
not
experience or overall experience. I loved Velocicoaster. I did. I think it's great. However, that being said, Forbidden Journey is still a better overall experience.
Yes.
Being able to do the castle tour, the actual attraction itself, even as it's now over 10 years old, is still a marvel when it comes to the technologies. And the fact that they have you exit and they talk about how you need to pick up your belongings from Filch. They have you exit. Yes, they have you exit into a gift shop. It's a little harder now that they've changed where the locker situation is to have it feel as cohesive. But they really work hard to make you feel as if you are still in the school up until the moment you exit the doors.
I'll give you that. Velocicoaster, the queue experience does not... It wouldn't even register on our episode about queue experiences.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's how it is. People are raving about how amazing it is. And really, there's like 2 or 3 scenes inside the building. And those scenes are good. But the overall queue is just not... It doesn't hold up there with something like Forbidden Journey.
That's the thing. There is spectacular moments for Velocicoaster. I think the fact that they have the raptors, like you can actively see them in the queue. The fact that they have even their safety spiel video is great, or like it tells a story. It gives you a lot of perspective. They use a lot of hidden things within the queue itself, whether it's kind of that montage of the water rippling, which is in the queue of like dinosaur footsteps rippling the water. They have books by
Alan Grant
and Ian, I don't remember his name, Jeff Goldblum. So you have those odes that are great. That is a great Easter egg within a queue. But if your entire queue is primarily made up of switchbacks,
and it's outside,
and it's, I mean, I don't mind the outside bit. That is necessity. But even inside that queue, it's a snake curling in on itself. That's just the way it is, which is fine. That is the necessity for that ride. However, there is a reason that Forbidden Journey has very limited switchbacks. It has switchbacks outside that don't really get used anymore unless it's really, really busy season.
Yeah, which hopefully might be coming up. We'll see.
We'll see. And then right as you're going through the safety spiel. And a lot of that is to make sure that you're able to see the scenes, because they do have the scenes in like the Hogwarts history class where you go through, and they want you to be able to stand there long enough to get the experience of
because the
character interaction.
Well, not just the character interaction, but that's where the story unfolds. Because the story is that you're coming to Hogwarts to go for a class,
History of Magics or something.
And the trio, the gang rescues you and says, "We're going to go to a Quidditch match instead."
Yeah, we know you don't want to be here to learn about knowledge things.
How dare you want to learn? Let's go have some fun.
Let's go watch sports.
But Men in Black, I mean, I love Men in Black so much.
I think the best part about it is as you exit, isn't there a sign that's like, is there life out there? No. That pulls directly from the same...
The queue itself is, are we alone in the universe? That's the big thing. Are we alone in the universe? It's meant to be a World's Fair type building, and it's just a facade, as you find out, for Men in Black training. You go through the entire ride, you send out, there's aliens, and oh my god, we're fighting aliens. And then at the end of the ride, you get your memory wiped with the neuralizer, and then you come back to the unload, and it is the same layout and design as the first room you walked into.
World's Fair.
The World's Fair. And it's are we alone in the universe? Of course we are. And then as you exit up the stairs, you see some of the slug aliens drinking coffee.
You just see the shadows, though, because it could be anything. It's just shadows.
And then I think even one of the corniest things that seals it home is that as you're walking out the exit, the aliens or the slugs are on the wall saying, with a sign that says, see proof of your alien adventure. And you can get your unread photo to take home. Which is even in theme. And as far as corny as that is, it's still in theme, it's still funny, and it works. It's amazing. It's great. Nothing that Universal's done recently has been as wonderful as that.
I feel like while Hagrid's queue is unfortunate for the amount of switchbacks it has,
the exit's garbage.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
That's the thing, is that where is there a good exit experience at Universal that doesn't just drop you? Even Velocicoaster just drops you outside.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the exit experience is needed for a Universal attraction, but I think that's a topic for another time. That's going to be another 4 hours.
We already covered that one.
Yeah. One of the ones I wanted to hit, too, I wanted to talk about the American Adventure show at Epcot. I think is a perfect representation of a great queue, great attraction, and a great exit. All right, so hear me out. They hold you in the rotunda downstairs at American Adventure, and right now they have a Native American exhibit going on, which is absolutely wonderful and well worth your time to check out. And now they have the Soul of Jazz exhibit, which is based off of, it's inspired by Soul, the movie, and it has a lot of the history of jazz and how it, came up in the Americas.
And it's talks specifically regionally how jazz is different per region, and how it has made a big impact from a lot of major artists, whether it's older artists or even contemporary artists.
And it hones in on the Black history involved with this as well. And it's a great exhibit. It is well worth checking out. They have Louis Armstrong's trumpet there. It's
so cool. That's such a crazy piece of history to as someone who really enjoys music, as someone who has kind of a love and a background in that, being able to see something like that on display is really cool.
It's wild.
Well, it's very exciting, and just learning. I think anyone can learn something from those things. So I think that's great. It is also at your own pace, which is a weird thing for a queue.
Mm-hmm. It's more like it's a holding pen. Once you're finally released into the show, you actually go at the back of the back of the room, and you take an escalator upstairs through the corridor of flags. I'm sure there's actually a proper name for that. I think it's the Hall of Flags or something. It's all of the flags from America throughout the years, all the states, all the American flags, all the USA flags throughout the years, all displayed around you as you take the escalators up. And it just starts to engulf you in this is where we came from, and this is where we're going to. It kind of rises you up to bring you into the American Adventure show. There's a few more paintings upstairs showing some, more of the history of America. And as you're seated, you're in pretty much a dark theater. But you see there's some sculptures to the right and to the left. And there's the spirit of innovation and the spirit of...
adventure.
There's a whole bunch of them. They are absolutely wonderful. But they're kind of just standing there and they don't really have a meaning. And before you know it, the theater goes dark and the show starts. The finale of the show, those statues come alive. And you realize that the entire projection screen goes right behind them. And you see them lit up, and it's all the spirits of America. What made this country great. In the show, Benjamin Franklin said, that we weren't dreamers, we were visionaries when creating the Constitution. And it really hones the idea home that America's not perfect, but we're working on it. And it's always the spirit and the compassion and what as Americans we can do for each other to make it America. And as you exit, you take a down ramp. And, of course, the finale song is Golden Dream. And it has the final lyrics for Golden Dream above you as you exit down the ramp back into World Showcase. So, maybe not the best exit experience, but the culmination of the show, bringing back in the pre-show into the post-show, exiting.
Well, I think the other thing that you kind of touched on is as the show is done and you're exiting... The curtain doesn't go down on these spirits of America or any of those things. You actually have the opportunity, because the lights stay on, and if depending on where you are in the theater and depending on how full the theater is, you're going to have time to just sit there and look around. You do recognize them more. You recognize kind of the ideals behind them. And it is very thought-provoking. It's as you are going through, as you're listening to this, what is very inspiring 80s music. It's so great. They redid it not that long ago, and it's wonderful. But with that, you're able to kind of... It is very thought-provoking as you're leaving. And the whole show is thought-provoking. So you kind of continue on with that whole mindset, which I do think is a great experience, and really pushes for a lot of things.
Looking up the Spirits of America online, just Google it, the Spirits of America, American Adventure. You can see all 12 of the sculptures in their grandeur. That's the word I was looking for there.
If we don't do an episode where Bret doesn't know how to say a word, then we have not really filmed.
That's worth your time checking out. I wish they would do a pin set or a sculpture set, because I'd throw money at it.
Yeah, the little,
Well, they've done all the
10-inch sculpture things.
They've done the bust of Haunted Mansion. They've done so much Haunted Mansion stuff. Just give me American Adventure merchandise. That's all I want.
Of course. As someone who can literally quote the entire show.
Yeah. You want to do that right now?
No.
Okay. Gotcha. Was there anything at Disneyland that we feel is a perfect experience?
So, I feel this way. You've made a statement that you don't agree with the exit that is Haunted Mansion. But I think that Disneyland's Haunted Mansion has a phenomenal entry, attraction, exit. I know that we've discussed this before, but when you look at, particularly with Disneyland, you walk through the grand gates, you go through the grounds, you go through kind of where the crypt is, but you actually enter the attraction through the front door.
This was the biggest thing that was the mind blowing for me as the Disney World fanboy. I grew up coming to Disney World. I didn't know you just walked in the door.
Which, when you think about it, makes complete sense if it's a house and not an attraction.
Yeah,
so
but it
gives you that extra bit where it gives realism to it.
We weren't used to that.
How else would you enter a house but through the front door?
Carefully, I guess. I don't know.
It is a little different now. They have with reopening, Disneyland has a COVID entry, which they're calling the servants' quarters, which actually does fit still with the narrative because you wouldn't have servants that would go through the front door. That makes sense. So that's a different thing and something they have done because of COVID, but has not been done prior to that. But it really gives you the idea. So you're going in, you go through the attraction experience where you are obviously going through a haunted house or the haunted mansion itself. And then as you exit, you kind of exit into an escalator. And that escalator takes you up. But as you go up and out, that's where you come across little Leota. And so she kind of keeps that eeriness alive.
It's nice
if you
having
will,
it,
as you're exiting.
It's nice having it off the ride, I guess. Like, everything on the ride at World, it just feels like it goes on and on and on.
It does feel very long at Disney World.
That's how I feel about Disneyland Pirates, though. I feel like after a certain point, it's like it's nap time.
It's so great. Shush. But no, I think that you get this really great kind of eeriness that continues on as you're going through the exit, and then you exit through the crypt. Like if you turn around and look at the exit itself, it's actually a crypt building. So it suddenly makes sense that you were in the cemetery and had all of these ghosts singing around you, and that you exited past this little tiny spirit who's telling you to come back. Because you were in the crypt, and those are creepy places. So I think that overall, that is a great experience. I think that's a way better experience overall than Disney World's Haunted Mansion.
Absolutely.
But it really does help. Like, it is a full story. From the moment you enter the queue to the moment you exit the queue, from door to door, you are immersed in that story the entire time.
I agree. I'll give you that. That's fine. I'll go back to my mansion statement and stop trashing Disneyland Mansion.
I win.
Yeah. But I think that wraps up discussion on the best attractions, friends. Really, we just wanted to talk about Indiana Jones Adventure for a half hour.
I mean, yes.
Which we can continue talking, but we're going to stop there on that note.
But let us know what you think. What is an attraction that you feel from the moment you enter the queue to the moment you exit the queue, the full story is told?
If anybody responds with any Galaxy's Edge stuff, we're going to block you.
No?
No. Please don't. Please no more Galaxy's Edge, please.
We literally talked about it ourselves.
I know. The Galaxy's Edge attractions are great. We know they are. Give me something interesting. Like, do you think Mad Tea Party is the best attraction?
No one thinks
Storybook Land Canal Boats.
I do love the Storybook Land Canal Boats. Excuse you.
Yeah, you can't defend that queue, though.
I mean, it's not a queue.
But that about
It's wood blocks. The attraction's great. The queue's not. Welcome to any Disneyland Fantasyland attraction.
Yeah, the Disney World people listen to this are probably like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
So they don't, for those of you that are curious, Disneyland attractions, many of them, primarily the ones in Fantasyland, have no queue. The only thing they have is very, very made for the 50s, small switchbacks. And they have very few of them within any of these attractions, that suddenly you're like maybe 3 rows deep and the entire queue is filled.
It's just a swarm of people at these rides.
It's very small queue experience. Most of it's outdoor, which is, if you're a Disney World local, you cannot fathom.
Yeah, that was wild for me, is that you load rides outdoors in Disneyland. I'm just like, what? How do you...
100%.
What? Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about torrential downpour flooding that happens here in Florida.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. It happens every once in a while in Florida.
In Disneyland?
I've been there when it's rained real hard.
It's wild, though.
It's great. As soon as it starts raining, everyone leaves. They're just like, no, we can't do this.
All right, so let us know what ride you think would fit into that best overall experience category. Holler us on social media at the Schmoofs, SCHMOOFS.
Or you can just yell at Bret on Twitter at Schmoofy, because that's also completely viable.
Yeah, please yell at me. If I'm posting too much garbage in a day, just start screaming. It's fine. But hey, thanks for listening.
Thanks for sticking along this journey with us for our cues and our exit cues and our overall cues.
Hopefully it was interesting enough to stick along, which, if you're listening at this point, we appreciate it.
Yay!
But that's it for my friends. Thanks for listening.
Bye!
Good night.